What is good, y'all? Good morning. Welcome to episode 1 of my new podcast series called the Thru Podcast. In case you don't know who I am, I go by no name Rodney, whatever. I'm a musician, artist, songwriter, singer, whatever. What I hope to do with this series is I'm hoping to bring people together. You know, I feel like I've been so out of touch with a lot of people in my life and my community, for one, since the pandemic. So it's been almost half a decade since I've been pretty involved in the music scene and all that stuff. And I've kind of gone through a lot, and I've distanced myself from the people in my community and my family and friends too. So I guess this is one of those ways that I can mend those relationships or build back up those relationships, because they do mean a lot to me. But sometimes I feel very selfish with the ways that I handle my own mental health. And, this podcast is kind of like a way to kind of cover all grounds in a sense, and kind of just be like a non-official therapy session for all of us. That's why I include mental health discussions at the second part of my episodes. I feel like that's very important to give everybody that space, because, in the past 4 years, like I was saying, I've had many times where I was going through a lot, and, sometimes people don't fully understand what it is that I'm going through. Sometimes they don't take it as serious because I'm not serious myself. I tend to make a lot of jokes and be funny up front, but, deep down, sometimes when I really want to talk, people just like kind of laugh it off, and they don't really understand what I'm trying to address. And so they take it as a joke. Or sometimes when I put my art out, that means a lot to me and it has a deeper meaning, sometimes it gets taken as a joke, and it kind of sucks, but I can't really blame anybody except for myself for not properly putting myself out there, making it well known how I'm feeling up front. And sometimes I do wear my heart on my sleeve, but other times I think majority of the time I just try not to do that, because one, I think it's kind of awkward for me to put it out there for my friends and family to know what it is that I'm going through. And then two, I hate being that burden on people, but I'll definitely be the person to absorb whatever anybody else is going through. Like, I'll be the one to listen. I hate being the one to talk. You know what I mean? And I feel like I'm still doing this with this podcast, but I also feel like it's more of a discussion rather than me being the therapist role in that discussion. I think it's both of us talking, putting our two cents in there. Having those conversations with everybody is important. I try to gauge where people are at with their lives, and I always want to start from the ground up. I want to see where you started from, how you got there, where it built it up to, and then we'll talk about XYZ. But in this series, you'll hear me ask a lot of these questions very similarly to every guest that I've had on here. I want to just let y'all know, even though it's the same questions, like I said, I want everybody to share their story, because just because I asked one person this question doesn't mean I shouldn't ask the next person the same exact question, because what if they have something totally different to say? What if they have something very intriguing or insightful? So I try to have this guiding list of questions, but I try not to keep on them too strictly, because I want the conversation to be very organic. There's not really much to me right now. I am definitely working on my mental health stuff. I'm doing this podcast because I'm unemployed and it kind of sucks because, you don't have a steady income. And when you're unemployed and don't have a steady income, you got to create the steady income. But yeah, I'm still looking for a job. We're not giving up hope. We're still pushing. We're not going to be a victim of circumstance. We're going to keep pushing. And I feel like you should apply that through everyday life. Don't ever give up something just because the outside world is happening, because the world is going to keep revolving regardless of if you're alive to see it or not. One other thing that I've noticed is a lot of people that I've spoken to outside of this podcast, they're very afraid to be on the podcast, which is, it totally makes sense. I noticed that they minimize their own problems. They're like, oh, my whatever I'm going through is not a big deal, or whatever I'm going through doesn't matter. It's whatever. That may be true in a sense. I would love for people to keep that mindset of like, hey, just because I'm going through this doesn't mean it's the end all be all. But at the same time, you also need to address that. You need to address the elephant in the room. I would hate for people to minimize whatever they're going through and not address it, or not, be proactive on fixing it if they can, you know. So yeah, I always want to show love to every person that I bring on here. I care about my community very deeply. The music community, specifically for me, has been nothing but supportive, and I want to make sure that everybody that has supported me feels support from me as well. And this is literally what I'm doing this podcast for. It's for the voices that don't get to be heard all the time, or for the people that have to suffer in silence, by themselves. Because I've been there, I've been through those hard times, and it sucks. It sucks ass because, you don't have anybody there. But yeah, this goes out to all the homies in the music community, in the art community, and I do this for my family and friends as well. And some of the guests in this series are not going to be musicians. They're not going to be artists. Some might be in the film industry. Some people might be in, like therapists or licensed therapists. Some people might be, I don't know. They could literally have any occupation, but I tend to bring people on here who I feel like would be very insightful and share a bunch of wisdom, because, the way that I see that they live their lives, it's like, okay, I definitely want to get a perspective on that. Yeah, and I also have my family on here because I feel like me and my family, we don't really talk about stuff like this. We kind of just very surface level, current events and stuff like that, but it's nothing too deep. And I feel like, I've been building a big connection with my family in the past year. I've honestly been saying I love you more, and I'm very comfortable saying that to the people that I mean it to, and who I genuinely care for and love deeply, because they mean a lot to me. They've done a lot for me. We've been through a lot, and I hope nothing but success for everybody that I bring onto this podcast, and even not on this podcast. But yeah, that's pretty much my whole spiel. I'm not gonna keep this episode too long. This is just the introduction, but I hope you guys have a good rest of the year. I hope everybody has a bunch of goals for 2025. And what I do at the end of each podcast episode is I open this tin. I read a question, and I don't read them. I have guests read and write questions on this Post-it note, and I'm gonna do that right now. Damn. Okay, so I just pulled this random one from this tin, and it says, "When you're at your lowest, how do you get yourself to keep going?" That's a tough one. There's been countless days since I've been a teenager where I thought it was going to be the last day for myself, or I thought I was not going to make it past a certain age, so I would just like live a lifestyle that just did not give a fuck. But in the past 4 years, going through what I did, I've been through a lot of mental health stuff. I think what keeps me going is my friends and family, and my appreciation and gratitude for the life that I have. Looking at the other side of the world, in third world countries, in the Philippines, like where my family's from, you see a lot of kids who don't have a lot, and it sucks to see that they have to live that life. Like they don't have the option to just start Uber and start earning all the shit that they have. They just don't have that life, those resources in their lives. It sucks. And, it makes me realize that, like, the life that I have, I should be extremely grateful for. The fact that I even live in America, regardless of what state, just the fact that I live in America already is a blessing to me, because I was born with unlimited resources around me, you know, and that just so happened to be the life that I have. But I look at the less fortunate, even the less fortunate here in America, in California, and you just see how people have to live, and it just makes you grateful if you really look at it with a deeper type of lens. It just makes you more grateful for the life that you have. So to circle all back, just being grateful for the life that I have, not taking it for granted, and my family and friends. For my family and friends specifically, I would hate to be in this predicament where let's say that I do exit early, if you catch my drift. My friends and family, I don't know how they would react, but is that the type of trauma that I would want to put onto them? And then also looking at my nephews and my partner, is that something that I want to put onto all of them? Probably not. Like that's such a selfish way to think. And obviously I've been on that other side where it's like, no, it's not selfish because you're just dealing with so much pain and this is the only way to go out. But you just got to keep pushing every day, regardless of how bad you think it is. Take it day by day, take it step by step. I've been through the shitter and I've made it out pretty well. I don't have any, like, there's no ill will on anybody, no bad blood with anybody that I've cut ties with or anything like that. At least I hope not. On my end, there's not. But I think I've forgiven anybody who's wronged me, and I pray that people who I've wronged forgive me too. We all make mistakes, but it's one of those things where you kind of just like you live and you learn. And I've went through a shitty time in mid-pandemic. I've had a bad experience with cigarettes. And me recording this today, I'm currently 3 years without smoking. So that's a milestone for me. I thought I was just gonna smoke till the day that I fucking die, and had that life flash before me, and it was a fucking reality check. It was like, bro, you're living on borrowed time, and the day that you wake up from that is the day that you figure it all out. And I pray that you all figure it all out before any experience like that ever happens to you. Yeah, that's pretty much my whole spiel. The words of wisdom or words to live by, I saw this quote, and I'm going to quote it in multiple episodes, it was a quote that I saw on Instagram, and it said, "The day that I found my rhythm was the day that I realized that stepping backwards was part of the dance." And I guess what that meant to me was that I guess the part for stepping back would mean any bad day, any bad occurrence in your life does not define your life. It just is part of your life. That's just life in general. Life is not a linear path. It's going to go up and down from the day that you're born till the day that you die. Life is going to go up and down consistently. That's all I have for this episode. I can't wait for you guys to see all my guests on this series. It's going to be a fun one. And yeah, I'll probably show a few episodes for myself without any guests, like throughout the year. Just maybe like a check-in or something. But yeah, that's all I got. All right, y'all. Peace.